All right, Buffalo Bills fans, welcome to this episode of The Walkthrough. I'm your host, Anthony Marino. Happy to be here with you once again, talking everything Buffalo Bills, and of course, part of the Overreaction Sports Network, being brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Bit of an abbreviated show for you this week. Just kind of, one of those things where life gets in the way. So, wanted to jump on with you still to have a show for you this week and talking everything Buffalo Bills. Of course, so much coming out of the NFL Combine. Interviews earlier in the week with Joe Brady, Brandon Beane. There will be plenty of updates, and obviously everyone here, whether it's Joe Miller, John Fina, Jerry Ostrowski, Zig Fracassi, Dan Freddy, everyone here at the Overreaction Sports Network will keep you up to date on the latest and greatest. A couple of things for me real quick that I did want to chat with you about, and I realize it's, at this point, right, it's like the end of February, early March, anything around mock drafts, it's certainly a bit too early. And I enjoy looking at them. A lot of times when I'll do some articles at buffalorumblings.com, I will focus on what some of the national pundits are doing from a mock draft standpoint. It helps give you an idea, right, of where some things fall. Now, of course, mock drafts before the start of free agency, before any players re-sign, it's always a little bit tricky because, there could be some players that end up re-signing with the team, and then all of a sudden that's not a hole. Or maybe there's somebody that you do expect to sign with the team, and now you've got to fill that. You could see the team certainly make some cuts leading up to the start of free agency as well, that, it's a different regime, at least a different regime when you talk about the head coach and Joe Brady. Of course, Jim Leonard with the defensive side of the ball, what that's going to look like. There's a lot of things that can happen. But I bring this up because there is one player that it seems like every mock draft that I look at right now is being selected for the Buffalo Bills. Charles Davis, NFL.com, Cynthia Freeland, NFL.com, Mel Kiper Jr. for ESPN, Hayden Winks for Underdog Fantasy, and in a few other spots as well. As I check all of these mock drafts, Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from University of Washington, has been the Buffalo Bills pick at number 26. Now, again, way, way, way too early. Don't get me, we're not getting ahead of ourselves. I'm not saying this is going to be the pick or anything. But when it comes to looking at some prospects, at least early on, that might be a guy that you want to start doing some research on because there's probably going to be a lot of links tying him to the Buffalo Bills. Now, of course, when you're talking about wide receivers at the end of the first round, and that's where the Bills are picking at number 26, the wide receiver conversation will continue. There's going to be so much around Keon Coleman this offseason. What's going to take place there? Is he going to stay with the team after Terry Pagula's comments at the press conference? There is a lot that still has to be determined. But Denzel Boston from University of Washington, and when you read his profile, right, it's one of those players that you sound like, this is what the Bills wanted Keon Coleman to be. And it is going to be interesting to see what they do at wide receiver. Are they looking for some of those bigger-bodied athletes like a Keon Coleman, like a Denzel Boston, or are they going to look for more of those guys that specialize in, in separation and speed, and maybe like a Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M? There's going to be a lot of that. But Denzel Boston, every time I look at national mock draft, is the guy that I'm seeing there. And I felt like it was worth sharing with all of you because, maybe some of you have watched him play a little bit more than I've had the opportunity to. Maybe you've got some opinions on other wide receivers that you like. Make sure, jump in the comments section here on YouTube. Of course, you can hit me up on Twitter at any time at Anth Marino and let me know your thoughts on the wide receiver position. So it's certainly going to be interesting, certainly something that we are going to continue to talk about and that we will look into moving forward. Now, listen, I got another topic I want to jump in with you all on, but before we get to that, I do need to thank our friends at Anchor Bar, not just for supporting the show here, the walkthrough, but everything that we do at the Overreaction Sports Network. You know that Anchor Bar, it's the home of the original Buffalo chicken wing. It's the place to watch all your favorite sporting events. So this time of year, hey, maybe it's some spring training baseball. Maybe you're watching the NBA or college basketball. There's still plenty of reasons, even though you're not watching the Bills right now. there's plenty of sporting events that you can check out, and Anchor Bar is the place to be. You can go to anchorbar.com to get all the information on their different locations and for online ordering. Of course, they serve fresh, high quality, never frozen jumbo wings, 24 different sauces and rubs that you can choose from. So no matter what you're feeling, they can definitely, fit your needs. Maybe you're not feeling like wings. They've got tenders, they've got pizza, they got beef on wick, they got sandwiches, they've got burgers, salads, so much more that you can choose from. Go to anchorbar.com to get all the information. Locations all across the country, newest locations in Tucson, Arizona, Frisco, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina. And this is your weekly plug to lobby for Anchor Bar to open a location in Albany, New York. So listen, the conversation I want to have with you this week, and I'm really curious what you all think, really ties into the opening of the new Highmark Stadium. And I think when you think about the new coaching staff, the changes that have taken place, of course, the combine, free agency, the draft, all of these things that are happening right now, we tend to forget, like, oh my gosh, there's a new stadium that is opening this season. And yeah, there was the vandalism that took place, and that was in the news, and it almost was like a little bit of a reminder of just like, oh yeah, in addition to everything else taking place, this is happening. And my question for all of you today, and again, jump in the comments, let me know your thoughts. Who should be the home opener for the Bills? Now, some people are speculating that the Bills will maybe on the road in week 1 of the season, give them additional week to just sort of, I don't know, work out any last minute kinks or things that need to take place. Now, listen, there will be preseason games there, so I don't buy into that theory as much, but it is something that out there. Will the Bills be playing at Highmark Stadium in week 1, or will that be something in week 2? From my point of view, it is a week 1 game, and it is a primetime game. And I tend to think it would be a primetime game on Monday Night Football, right? Maybe not Sunday Night Football. Again, kind of that could be one of your marquee matchups with another franchise, I guess. But I guess I'm looking at it and thinking Monday Night Football in week 1, the Buffalo Bills are opening Highmark Stadium. But who's the opponent going to be? And when you get to that, you've got to take a look at who the opponents are that the Bills will be hosting in Buffalo this season. So as we take a look at it, here is the rundown, and I definitely have some thoughts on these options. Of course, you have the 3 AFC East teams, right? The Miami Dolphins, the New England Patriots, and the New York Jets will all be coming to the new Highmark Stadium at some point during this season. In addition to that, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions, and the Baltimore Ravens. So let's kind of run through this one by one, right? Initially, I would have thought that the Miami Dolphins would be a good fit to open the new Highmark Stadium, right? The Bills' rival coming up to Buffalo, right? Like, of course, right? Probably the biggest rival, I think you would think, in the history of the Buffalo Bills, at least from my standpoint growing up, right? Dolphins week was always something special. And if you're talking about that opener, this could be a great matchup. Well, now the Dolphins are kind of like stripping things down to the studs, right? You get rid of a bunch of players. You talk about trading additional players. They're probably going to get rid of their quarterback. This is a team that is like probably planning for the 2027 season. So when you're talking about the opener, when you're talking about something that, at least in my estimation, is going to be a primetime game, having it be the Miami Dolphins probably is not going to be that nationwide draw that the NFL would be looking at early in the schedule, right? The Bills have played the Dolphins early, last year on Thursday Night Football and other spots. Like, yeah, that's fine when there's some expectations, but when it's a team that it looks like they are, quote unquote, tanking at this time, that's probably not who you want to open the stadium with. New England Patriots is an interesting option, right? Won the AFC this year, lose in the Super Bowl. Of course, plenty of storylines between these two franchises. That is something I can definitely see. Now, are you sending the AFC champions on the road week 1, to a rival to help them open their stadium? Like, I don't know. For the Patriots, I guess I would take a little umbrage with that. Like, not to say they'd play the disrespect card there or something along those lines. But, I think as you look at it, if you're that team that won the AFC last year, are you going on the road to help another team open their stadium? Maybe it could happen. Maybe it's something that's happened before and it's just not jumping to the top of my head, but I would be surprised with that too. Next up, the New York Jets. Again, probably not. I mean, yes, the Jets being in the largest media market, of course, when you talk about eyeballs and everything there, certainly, a heated rival of the Buffalo Bills. But Bills, Jets opening the stadium, yeah, maybe primetime game. I don't know if it's going to carry that same cachet. Kansas City Chiefs would be a bit of a no-brainer, but the health of Patrick Mahomes certainly is a question. I think he will be ready for the start of the season, but I'm also guessing that that's going to end up being a November game, 4:25 window on CBS with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo once again calling that game. So, with Kansas City, maybe if Mahomes was healthy, could see that being an option, right? You talk about some electricity, certainly would stand out. I just don't see that being the case. Los Angeles Chargers, that's an interesting option, right? Certainly a team with talent. When you've got a Harbaugh as your head coach, when you've got Justin Herbert as your quarterback, you're talking about hitting the East Coast and the West Coast in a primetime game in week 1. Yeah, I guess I could see it. It doesn't carry a lot of that cachet maybe that you would be looking for as far as a rivalry goes. But when you're talking about having a West Coast opponent play in a primetime game in Buffalo, two teams with, playoff expectations and Super Bowl aspirations, I could see that one too. The last three on the list I find to be the most intriguing, right? For a number of reasons, and I'm sure for all of you. I'll go to the one that was last on the list first, because, anytime the Baltimore Ravens play the Buffalo Bills, it's a marquee matchup. I don't know that I would see it happening again after Baltimore was in Buffalo for the opener this past season. Certainly one of the most exciting games of the NFL season, right? Primetime week 1 gets the season off on such a level, which is absolutely crazy. But I don't see that happening 2 years in a row, right? So even though from an eyeball standpoint, again, something to make this electric atmosphere, I think the Ravens would definitely be in consideration, but I put it at the bottom of the list of these three. Next up on the list, the Chicago Bears. The Bears, obviously under Ben Johnson, a resurrection. Caleb Williams, not high flying quarterback. That's the wrong term, but right. Like the arrow is pointing up after year 2 with this new coaching staff. The Chicago Bears, they bring one of the largest media markets. For them to play in Buffalo on a primetime type of game, can definitely see that happening. And again, would be two teams that have Super Bowl aspirations. Like you could dub that. Is this a Super Bowl preview? I think these are two teams, that would certainly be in the mix, at least to go to their respective championship games. And when you talk about Joe Brady and Ben Johnson and these two prolific, former offensive coordinators now becoming head coaches, I think that's one that people would certainly turn into. And now it's that point. Like, remember for years, like the Chicago Bears would get 4 or 5 primetime games and they were horrible. And it was just, well, it's the Bears and it's Chicago, like in a similar way to like when the Jets or Giants would be on primetime, because it was just, you're bringing the large media markets, which is going to drive eyeballs. It's going to drive advertisers, but it's not great football. Now the Chicago Bears are playing great football. So that is one that would certainly be intriguing. But my money is on the Detroit Lions, right? When you talk about the proximity between Detroit and Buffalo, you think about their ties throughout the AFL days through Ralph Wilson. When you think about just the last time these two teams played 2 seasons ago in one of the most exciting games of the season, absolutely electric when the Bills went to Detroit. Right? Like Jared Goff, Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, Amon-Ra St. Brown, whatever new wide receivers the Buffalo Bills are going to bring in. My point is, I think this would be one of those matchups. If you are just a fan of football, right? Like it doesn't have to be one of those that you're saying, oh, I care about either one of these teams. You are going into that matchup, like you're circling down the calendar, like, oh, I don't want to do anything tonight. This is a game that I want to see. And I think these are two teams that definitely fit that bill, that bring a level of excitement that every casual fan would want to see the Lions play the Bills in a primetime matchup. And I think that would be like a hell of a fun game to open the new Highmark Stadium of all of the teams on this list. So I'm curious to get your thoughts, right? Like, let me know what you're thinking. Is there someone else that you think is a better bet? As I mentioned to you, I definitely like the idea of the Chicago Bears. Yes, the New England Patriots I could see. Any of the AFC East teams I could see. I mean, this is a hell of a schedule for the Bills this season. I mean, at home, right? I mean, these are, with the exception of the Dolphins and the Jets, Patriots, Chiefs, Chargers, Bears, Lions, Ravens. Those are all teams with Super Bowl aspirations. And I get it. When you start the season, everyone should be thinking Super Bowl. That's fine. But these are teams when you enter into the conversation, like, yeah, there's going to be some marquee matchups there. But for me, I would love to see Monday Night Football, opening week, Buffalo Bills, Detroit Lions. That would just be one heck of a game. I think it would be a great opportunity to open the new Highmark Stadium. What I don't want to see is the Bills opening Highmark Stadium in week 2 on Thursday Night Football. That I do not want to see, right? Like, I have no issues with the Thursday Night Football broadcast or any of those pieces. But again, I think as we look at this, it deserves either that Sunday night or Monday night time slot. And in my mind, it should be week 1. When you're talking about opening a new stadium that season, that would be my expectation of what we see. And again, I want to hear your expectations too. So hit me up in the comments section, hit me on Twitter at Anthony Marino, and let me know your thoughts, because that's what we do here at the Overreaction Sports Network. And listen, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you comment, make sure you like, all of those things. And I say that, right, it's somewhat self-serving, but it helps us reach more Buffalo Bills fans, right? So all of those things that you do, it helps us have some great conversations with more folks just like yourself. So we appreciate you taking the time to do that. We really do. And for tuning in every week, not just to the walkthrough, but to all the shows here on the Overreaction Sports Network. So listen, I'm going to get out of here for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next week. And as always, go Bills.